not going to believe what just happened. Toyota dealers didn't just scam their customers, they detonated their own business. It started when dealerships across America jacked up prices by more than $10,000 overnight. But that was just the beginning. They stuffed fake fees, bogus add-ons, and shameless markups into every deal, and most buyers never even saw it coming. But here's the twist: that greed backfired. Sales crashed, customers fought back, and now Toyota's entire dealer network is in freefall, scrambling to survive the disaster they created. In this video, we're exposing the explosive truth behind Toyota's biggest dealer scam, and how you can flip the script and cash in on their collapse. But how did dealers go from printing money to begging for buyers? How did customers turn the tables overnight? And what can you do right now to make them pay? Stick around, because we're about to break it all down. What's happening? During the vehicle shortages of 2021 to 2023, Toyota dealerships across the United States ignited public outrage when they implemented staggering price markups. These markups were not subtle. Many dealers shamelessly raised the price of high-demand Toyota vehicles by as much as $10,000 over the manufacturer's suggested retail price. The most scandalous example of this price gouging was the Toyota GR Corolla, which saw eye-watering markups at several dealerships. The tactic was simple but ruthless. Dealerships exploited the global chip shortage, supply chain bottlenecks, and record-high demand to push customers into panic buying. Buyers desperate to get their hands on a new vehicle were met with inflated sticker prices. The message was clear: pay the markup, or someone else will. This aggressive profiteering resulted in online forums exploding with frustrated buyers. Reddit threads and car enthusiast forums were flooded with posts exposing specific dealerships for listing new Toyota vehicles at absurd premiums. The backlash was swift and severe. Social media became the battleground where betrayed customers fought back. News outlets picked up these stories, further amplifying the scandal. Lawsuits soon followed. In some states, customers accused dealers of deceptive practices and price manipulation, seeking compensation for what they saw as predatory behavior. But beyond the legal battles and viral headlines, something more damaging occurred. Toyota's once sterling reputation for fairness and reliability began to crack. For decades, Toyota had earned the trust of American consumers by offering dependable vehicles at reasonable prices. That trust was now in question. Longtime Toyota owners wondered if the brand they had been loyal to was complicit in this scheme, or powerless to stop it. The long-term damage of this greed explosion was not limited to immediate sales. Analysts warned that even when supply normalized, many buyers would remember how they were treated. They would think twice before stepping back into a Toyota dealership, knowing they were once considered easy targets. While overt markups grabbed the headlines, an even more sinister tactic unfolded behind the scenes. Dealers weren't just charging more upfront, they were trapping buyers with hidden fees and bogus add-ons that customers never asked for. And we're just getting started. If you don't want to get caught in these dealership scams, hit like and subscribe right now, so you never miss the truth they don't want you to know. Now let's talk about how they really trapped buyers. The hidden fees scam. Beneath the surface of the Toyota price gouging scandal lurked another scheme that enraged customers even further. Buyers who managed to negotiate the vehicle price down were blindsided at the last minute by a wave of unexpected fees and add-ons stuffed into their purchase contracts. These hidden fees often took the form of so-called protection packages, overpriced extended warranties, paint sealant, nitrogen-filled tires, window etching, or even GPS subscription fees. In many cases, customers were not given a choice. Dealers would pre-install these packages and refuse to remove them, arguing that the added costs were non-negotiable. The deception was well documented. In 2024, the Federal Trade Commission issued guidelines warning consumers about these hidden fees. Investigations revealed that many dealers forced thousands of dollars in unwanted add-ons onto unsuspecting buyers. Some dealerships even trained their staff to sneak fees into financing contracts, hoping overwhelmed customers wouldn't notice. Customers who tried to decline these extras were often met with stonewalling tactics. Sales staff told them the fees were mandatory, even though they were not. Many buyers walked away from the dealership feeling duped, confused, and powerless. This practice did not only inflate the final sale price, it also undermined consumer trust and left customers questioning whether the entire car buying process was rigged against them. This brewing resentment would soon boil over when another consequence of Toyota's dealer greed became impossible to hide: the collapse of their manipulated inventory system. From artificial scarcity to overflowing lots. For nearly 3 years, Toyota dealers intentionally created artificial scarcity by limiting available stock and playing hardball with buyers. However, by late 2024, the tables turned. As inflation cooled and interest rates climbed, many customers abandoned the market altogether, unwilling to pay inflated prices. The result? A flood of unsold inventory. Reports indicated that by the end of 2024, nearly 50,000 brand-new Toyota vehicles remained sitting on dealership lots across the country. What had been a seller's market turned into an inventory nightmare, almost overnight. This collapse forced dealers to slash prices, offer discounts, and roll out incentives just to move stagnant stock. Suddenly, the same vehicles that had commanded 5-figure markups were being advertised with clearance sales and deep discounts. The artificial bubble that dealers had built collapsed under its own weight. Customers who had overpaid during the shortage now felt betrayed, knowing that the same car could be had for thousands less just months later. Worse yet, Toyota's image took another hit. It became clear that the shortage was never just about supply chains. It was also about manipulation, greed, and exploitation. This market shift exposed the dangerous gamble Toyota dealers had taken. But it wasn't just their pricing tactics or inventory manipulation that backfired. Toyota's strategic bet on turbocharged hybrid technology also began to unravel in front of their most loyal customers. The turbo gamble. At the height of the shortage crisis, Toyota unveiled its next big move: a pivot to turbocharged hybrid engines. On paper, the strategy made sense. Smaller, turbocharged engines promised lower emissions and better fuel economy, paired with the proven efficiency of hybrid technology. But the reality quickly turned sour. Customers accustomed to Toyota's legendary reliability soon realized that turbocharged hybrids came with steep trade-offs. Maintenance costs climbed, engine components wore out faster, and long-term dependability, a key reason why so many Americans had stuck with Toyota for decades, became questionable. Forums, review sites, and social media feeds filled with complaints about expensive repairs and poor reliability. Mechanics reported that turbo components failed more frequently than traditional naturally aspirated engines. Warranty claims spiked. Enthusiasts who had once praised Toyota's bulletproof powertrains now advised others to avoid these models. This technological gamble not only alienated Toyota's core customer base, but also left the door open for rivals. Brands like Honda, Hyundai, and Kia, which maintained simpler, naturally aspirated engines in many models, began winning over disillusioned Toyota owners. By 2025, it was clear that Toyota's turbo gamble had failed to deliver the promised benefits without sacrificing reliability. It added one more layer of controversy to an already battered brand image. And this entire saga, from outrageous markups to unreliable hybrids, was not an isolated event. Financial meltdown. The financial reality gripping Toyota dealerships across the United States is far more severe than many industry outsiders realize. Beneath the shiny showrooms and smiling salespeople is a brutal economic storm quietly bleeding dealers dry. Rising interest rates and a glut of unsold inventory have pushed these dealerships to the brink, forcing them into a desperate corner where they are slashing prices, cutting profits, and struggling to stay afloat. It all starts with a system most car buyers never think about: floor plan financing. This is the method by which dealerships finance the vehicles sitting on their lots. Essentially, every car, truck, or SUV you see parked outside is not fully owned by the dealer. Instead, it is being financed with a loan. And as long as that vehicle sits unsold, the dealer is paying interest on it every single month. When interest rates were low, this was a manageable cost of doing business. But as rates have skyrocketed over the past 2 years, that cost has exploded. To make matters worse, inventory levels have ballooned. As of May 2024, dealerships across the country reported nearly 2,270,000 unsold vehicles, a staggering 6% increase compared to the previous year. Toyota dealers in particular are sitting on record amounts of overstocked inventory, much of it electric vehicles and hybrid models that customers simply are not lining up to buy. Every unsold vehicle is a financial anchor, dragging dealers further underwater. Higher interest rates mean higher holding costs, forcing many Toyota dealers to lower prices just to move units off their lots, even if it means losing money on every sale. A Hague report from the first quarter of 2024 even warned that dealers were being crushed by a toxic mix of high borrowing costs and bloated inventories, pushing many to the edge of financial collapse. But this inventory crisis is not the only force tearing Toyota dealers apart. Beneath the financial chaos is a deeper, more dangerous conflict, one that strikes at the heart of how dealerships make their money. And it all begins with the electric vehicle revolution they never wanted. As Toyota dealers slash prices to survive the burden of unsold inventory, an even bigger threat is brewing, one they tried to fight from the inside: the rise of electric vehicles and the sabotage that followed. The EV backlash. While Toyota has publicly committed to electrification, its dealers have quietly resisted this transition at every turn. Beneath the corporate speeches about innovation and the future, many Toyota dealers have been waging a secret war against the very vehicles they are supposed to sell, and it all comes down to money and power. For decades, Toyota dealers have built their business models around service revenue, oil changes, engine repairs, brake jobs, transmission fixes, all the things that internal combustion vehicles require over time. These services are not just a convenience, they are a financial lifeline for dealerships. But electric vehicles threaten to cut that revenue stream off at the knees. With far fewer moving parts, no need for oil changes, and lower maintenance costs overall, EVs pose an existential threat to the traditional dealership profit model. It is no surprise then that Toyota dealers dragged their feet when it came to embracing EVs. Some actively discouraged customers from buying them, steering buyers toward gasoline-powered or hybrid alternatives instead. Reports from industry sources revealed that many U.S. dealers had a negative perception of EVs, often undermining sales efforts on the showroom floor. This attitude was not just limited to the dealerships. Even Toyota's own leadership signaled reluctance. In 2024, Toyota's chairman doubled down on his skepticism toward full electrification, predicting that electric vehicles would never surpass 30% market share. This corporate hesitation only emboldened dealers to continue sabotaging EV sales behind the scenes. But their resistance did not go unnoticed. Customers, influencers, and industry watchdogs began to expose these tactics, igniting a public backlash that would soon spiral out of control. As Toyota dealers secretly fought against the electric future, they forgot one crucial thing: the customers were watching, and soon those frustrated buyers would strike back in a way that shook the entire dealership network. Customers fight back. In the age of social media, corporate missteps and customer mistreatment do not stay hidden for long. As Toyota dealers resisted electric vehicles and played pricing games with their bloated inventories, it did not take long for angry customers to take their grievances public. And when they did, it sparked an online firestorm that Toyota's dealer network was completely unprepared to face. Stories of shady pricing practices, surprise fees, dealer markups, and outright EV misinformation flooded platforms like Reddit, TikTok, and Twitter. Buyers who had walked into Toyota dealerships expecting transparency and fairness instead found themselves confronted by outdated sales tactics and outright hostility toward electric vehicle purchases. Many of them took to the internet to vent their frustration, and those posts went viral. The damage was immediate. Hashtags exposing Toyota dealers' practices trended across social media, drawing millions of views and putting intense public pressure on dealerships to change. Some customers even coordinated mass walkouts, entering dealerships, gathering quotes, and then collectively refusing to buy once they realized they were being gouged or misled. The backlash grew so fierce that Toyota was eventually forced to reverse key policies and pressure its dealers to clean up their act. But by then, the reputational damage was done. The public trust that Toyota dealers had spent decades building was crumbling, replaced by viral videos, angry reviews, and a new generation of customers determined to bypass the dealership experience altogether. And that leads us to the next brutal truth facing Toyota dealers. It is not just customers walking away. Entire companies are rewriting the rules of car sales, leaving old-school dealerships in the dust. As customers took to social media and walked out of dealerships in protest, another storm was brewing, one that threatened to wipe out the dealership model entirely and change how cars are bought forever. A broken business model. While Toyota dealers battled financial pressures, EV resistance and social media revolts, a much bigger threat was taking shape outside their control: the collapse of the entire dealership business model. The rise of direct-to-consumer sales platforms, pioneered by disruptors like Tesla and Rivian, has fundamentally changed how millions of people buy cars, and traditional dealers are rapidly becoming obsolete. For the first time in automotive history, buyers can order a car online, customize it, and have it delivered to their doorstep without ever stepping foot in a dealership. Tesla proved this model could work at scale, building an empire without a single franchise dealer. Rivian, Lucid, and other startups followed suit, and consumers embraced the simplicity, transparency, and control these new systems offered. This shift has devastated the old dealership model. Direct sales eliminate the dealership's middleman profit margins, cutting out the upselling, fees, and high-pressure tactics customers have grown to resent. According to CarBuzz, the DTC sales model bypasses dealerships completely, eliminating any potential for profit as well as the possibility to generate income from service and maintenance. Toyota's dealer network, built on the franchise system and service revenue, is now being undercut at every level. Younger buyers, those most likely to embrace electric vehicles, prefer to buy online, avoid haggling, and demand transparent pricing. The writing is on the wall, and Toyota dealers know it. Even Toyota itself has begun experimenting with hybrid sales models that integrate digital tools and online sales options. But these half measures may not be enough to save the traditional dealership in the long run. The market flip. It is almost unbelievable how quickly the tables have turned on Toyota dealerships. Not long ago, these dealers were sitting comfortably at the top of the food chain, exploiting post-pandemic shortages and supply chain issues to charge outrageous markups. It was not uncommon to see new Toyota 4Runner models, Tacoma pickups, and even base-level Camrys with price tags inflated by $5,000 or more above the manufacturer's suggested retail price. The dealers knew they could get away with it because inventory was tight, demand was high, and customers were desperate. That greed fueled their profits, but now it has backfired spectacularly. By late 2024, Toyota dealers in the United States were sitting on more than 3 million unsold vehicles, according to recent industry data. That number was not only the highest inventory figure in nearly 5 years, but also a staggering reflection of how bloated their lots had become. Worse still, showroom foot traffic declined by more than 15% compared to the previous year. Interest rates shot up, monthly payments skyrocketed, and suddenly, customers who once fought over overpriced Toyotas vanished. The market dynamics flipped because of simple supply and demand. Dealers, unwilling to adjust during the boom years, are now choking on their own unsold inventory. This is why consumers who were previously squeezed are now holding all the cards. Dealerships are slashing prices, waiving off fees, and offering 0% interest rates just to get vehicles off their lots. Buyers today can walk into a Toyota dealer and secure discounts of $4,000, $5,000, or even more, depending on the model and location. The market flip is complete. Toyota's greed created the very conditions that now force them to beg for buyers. But knowing that desperate dealers are ready to deal is not enough. To truly take advantage of this buyer's market, you need to understand exactly how to beat their old-school tricks and avoid their most common scams. Now that you know why the market is in your favor, it is time to arm yourself with the specific tactics that will prevent you from being ripped off by a desperate Toyota dealer. Beat the dealer. In this new era of car buying, the biggest mistake you can make is assuming that a desperate dealer will automatically give you a fair deal. These dealerships are still using every trick in the book to squeeze profits from customers who do not know how to fight back. But you can outsmart them if you come prepared with proven tactics. First, you must conduct thorough research. Before stepping foot in a Toyota showroom, familiarize yourself with the fair market value of the specific vehicle you want. Resources like Kelley Blue Book will give you an accurate idea of what people in your area are actually paying. If a dealer quotes you a price that is even $1,000 higher than the market average, you will know you are being played. Second, scrutinize every fee. Dealers are notorious for adding junk fees to pad their profits. Always request a full itemized breakdown of all fees before you even begin negotiating. Some fees, such as documentation fees, are unavoidable but should not exceed a few $100s. Others, like nitrogen tire charges, paint protection packages, and mysterious administrative fees, can and should be removed entirely. Third, secure pre-approved financing before you walk through the dealership's doors. Most Toyota dealers make enormous profits from arranging high-interest financing behind the scenes. By getting pre-approved for a loan at your bank or credit union, you will have negotiating power and will not fall victim to inflated interest rates. Finally, be prepared to walk away. This is the most powerful tactic you have. If the dealer refuses to remove bogus fees, lower the price, or match your financing terms, leave. You will almost always receive a call within 24 hours offering you a better deal. Armed with these strategies, you will not only avoid getting scammed, but you will also walk away with the best deal possible, possibly saving thousands of dollars. But while individual consumers can protect themselves, the real question is whether Toyota itself can repair the mess its dealers have created. The tactics to beat the dealer are clear, but can Toyota repair the damage that has already been done to its public image and regain the trust of burned customers? Can Toyota rebuild trust? Toyota has realized, perhaps too late, that the damage done by its dealer network may not be repairable. Over the past 2 years, headlines about massive markups, dealership scams, and poor customer treatment have dominated social media and news platforms. Consumer confidence in the Toyota buying experience has taken a nosedive, and the automaker is now scrambling to clean up the mess. One of the first moves Toyota made was to launch a corporate initiative focused on rebuilding trust at the dealership level. The company instructed its dealers to stop excessive markups and to improve transparency in the sales process. Training programs were rolled out to ensure sales staff communicated more honestly with customers. However, the problem with this strategy is that it relies entirely on the cooperation of independent dealers, many of whom are still chasing profits at the expense of long-term trust. Toyota also tried to soften its image by promoting its efforts towards sustainability and future innovation. The automaker invested heavily in hybrid and electric vehicle development, branding itself as the environmentally responsible choice. But this attempt to change the narrative did little to address the primary issue, the toxic dealership experience. In some cases, Toyota has even attempted to bypass its dealers altogether. The company experimented with pilot programs offering online sales and home delivery options, trying to mimic the direct-to-consumer model pioneered by Tesla. Yet these efforts remain limited and unevenly applied. The reality is that no matter how many corporate press releases Toyota issues or how much money it spends on green initiatives, it cannot erase the frustration and resentment customers felt when they were gouged and misled during the peak of the markup frenzy. Even if Toyota's repair efforts succeed, the car buying experience itself is undergoing a radical transformation that may leave traditional dealerships behind for good. The future of car buying, why the dealer model is dying. The traditional dealership model that Toyota has relied upon for decades is crumbling, and not just because of social media backlash or temporary market shifts. The entire way people buy cars is changing, and the dealer model may not survive the next 10 years. The rise of direct-to-consumer sales models has shown millions of buyers that they no longer need to deal with shady dealership tactics. Tesla pioneered this approach, selling vehicles directly through their website and company-owned stores without markups, haggling, or unnecessary fees. Companies like Rivian, Lucid, and even Ford with their online ordering system have followed suit, allowing customers to customize and order vehicles without ever stepping into a dealership. Consumers are embracing this model because it removes the stress and unpredictability of the traditional car buying experience. Buyers can compare prices, financing options, and delivery dates online without being pressured by a commission-driven salesperson. Even Toyota, one of the biggest proponents of the dealership system, has begun quietly experimenting with digital retailing platforms. Some Toyota dealers now allow customers to complete the entire purchase process online, including paperwork and financing, but only in select markets and under tightly controlled circumstances. The shift is inevitable. Younger generations of car buyers, raised in the age of Amazon and digital convenience, will not tolerate the old dealership games. They expect transparency, speed, and fairness. Traditional dealerships that fail to adapt to this new reality will simply be left behind. The future of car buying is digital, direct, and customer-centric, and that future spells the end of the toxic dealership model that helped spark Toyota's current crisis. Ford's disaster. In the automotive world, few debacles have been as pronounced as Ford's recent missteps with the Bronco and F-150 Lightning models. Initially, these vehicles generated immense excitement among consumers, eager to experience the revival of the Bronco and the innovation of the electric F-150 Lightning. However, this enthusiasm was swiftly dampened by dealer practices that prioritized short-term profits over customer loyalty. Reports emerged of dealerships imposing exorbitant markups on these highly anticipated models. For instance, some dealers were adding as much as $10,000 over the manufacturer's suggested retail price for the Bronco. Similarly, the F-150 Lightning saw price hikes between $2,000 and $10,000, depending on the trim level. These practices not only alienated potential buyers, but also led to a significant accumulation of unsold inventory. Dealerships found themselves with rows of unsold Broncos and F-150s, forcing them to slash prices in a bid to move inventory. The backlash was impossible to ignore. Customers took to online forums, social media, and even mainstream news outlets to share their frustration and call out specific dealers. Ford's corporate response was to warn its dealerships against such markups, emphasizing the potential damage to the brand's reputation and customer trust. Despite these warnings, the damage had been done. The combination of inflated prices and a growing perception of corporate greed led to a consumer revolt, with many opting to take their business elsewhere. While Ford grappled with the fallout from its pricing strategies, General Motors faced its own set of challenges stemming from similar dealer behaviors. General Motors' mistake. Amid the chaos of skyrocketing vehicle prices, the Chevrolet Silverado and GMC Sierra became the latest victims of dealership greed and short-sighted pricing strategies. General Motors found itself entangled in a web of dealer-induced pricing controversies that severely impacted the sales of its flagship trucks. Dealerships, aiming to capitalize on high demand, imposed significant markups on these models, pushing prices beyond the reach of average consumers. Some Silverado models were listed at $5,000 to $12,000, above the manufacturer's suggested retail price, while certain GMC Sierra trims saw premiums as high as $15,000. This aggressive pricing strategy alienated core truck buyers, many of whom were longtime General Motors loyalists. Unsurprisingly, the strategy backfired as potential buyers balked at the inflated costs, leading to a noticeable decline in sales. By the third quarter of 2024, General Motors dealer inventory had risen by 42% year-over-year, indicating a troubling surplus of unsold vehicles. The Silverado, once a strong contender in the full-size pickup market, saw its market share erode as consumers sought more reasonably priced alternatives. Adding to the frustration, many prospective buyers shared their negative dealership experiences online, amplifying the backlash and further tarnishing General Motors' public image. General Motors' attempts to rectify the situation included offering incentives and financing deals to stimulate sales. They also quietly encouraged dealers to roll back excessive markups, but the initial damage to consumer trust proved challenging to overcome. The controversy underscored the perils of short-term profit strategies at the expense of long-term brand loyalty. As General Motors contended with the repercussions of its pricing tactics, Jeep's approach to vehicle markups presented a cautionary tale of its own. Jeep's greed. Enthusiasts and loyalists were dismayed to find models like the Wrangler and Gladiator priced exorbitantly, with some dealers adding as much as $20,000 over the manufacturer's suggested retail price. Even base trims were affected, leaving buyers frustrated and disillusioned. This pricing strategy led to a sharp decline in sales, as many consumers simply walked away from showrooms. In the first half of 2024, Jeep's United States sales dropped by 9%, with the decline accelerating to 19% in the second quarter. The Gladiator, in particular, experienced a significant sales slump, prompting discussions about its future viability within the Stellantis portfolio. Analysts warned that without immediate intervention, the model could face discontinuation. The excessive markups not only deterred potential buyers but also tarnished Jeep's reputation. The brand's rugged, adventure-ready image, built over decades, suffered as consumers perceived Jeep as prioritizing profits over its loyal customer base. Longtime fans voiced their disappointment across social media and automotive forums, further amplifying the backlash. The experiences of Ford, General Motors, and Jeep underscore a broader industry trend where dealer greed has had far-reaching consequences, eroding trust, damaging brand equity, and leaving even iconic nameplates vulnerable in an increasingly competitive market. The industry-wide lesson. The automotive industry's recent history is replete with examples of dealer greed leading to significant downturns in sales and consumer trust. The The practices of imposing exorbitant markups, prioritizing short-term profits, and neglecting customer loyalty have culminated in an industry-wide reckoning. Consumers, empowered by information and alternative options, have become increasingly resistant to perceived exploitation. The backlash against dealer markups has not only affected individual brands, but has also contributed to a broader industry downturn. Sales declines, inventory surpluses have become common themes across manufacturers. This period serves as a stark reminder of the importance of aligning pricing strategies with consumer expectations and market realities. The automotive industry must recognize that sustainable success hinges on building and maintaining trust with consumers, rather than exploiting them for short-term gains. The cautionary tales of Ford, General Motors, and Jeep highlight the perils of dealer greed. As the industry moves forward, it must prioritize transparency, fairness, and customer-centric approaches to rebuild trust and ensure long-term viability. And there you have it, the brutal truth about how dealer greed, corporate missteps, and outright arrogance didn't just damage Toyota, but set off a chain reaction that wrecked Ford, General Motors, Jeep, and the entire American auto industry. What started as a few outrageous markups and shady games turned into a full-blown crisis that no brand, no matter how big, could escape. Now, the cracks are visible to everyone. The old-school dealership model isn't just outdated, it's collapsing under the weight of its own greed. But now I want to hear from you. What do you think is the real reason these automakers and their dealers destroyed their own customer base? Do you think the dealership model can survive after this chaos? Or is this the beginning of the end for the car buying system we've known for over 100 years? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. I read every single one. And if you got any value from this video, if you learned something new, or if you're just tired of being ripped off by greedy dealers, make sure you smash that subscribe button and hit the bell icon so you don't miss the next video.